Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, I'm happy to be with you. I'm Rukia Muhammad, and let's continue with our series on behavior change. And as we saw last time, we are now talking about the different stakeholders insofar as behavior change is concerned and their roles. So we started with the role of teachers, and we are going to continue with the role of teachers in behavior change. So last time we introduced and said that we are looking at the roles of teachers in terms of their ability to, or their role in social emotional learning of the learner, their own self-care, and also trauma sensitive practices. So I am supposed today to talk about the context of your classroom, and as I had said, the context involves your learner, their family, the community, and also the school surrounding and the resources around your school. So why is it that trauma is something of essence insofar as a child is concerned and behavior change is concerned? Is that when a child goes through trauma, they have this fear in them. They respond to trauma through fear, not only children, but generally, either fear, the flight, fright, or even freeze mode. So you have the ability as a teacher to help them through how sensitive you are to the fact that any of the children in your classroom might have gone through one kind of trauma or the other. So when you talk about social emotional learning, we talked about the different relationships, the different skills that you impart in the learner. And these are the self-awareness, which are related to the self, the child themselves. There's also the self-awareness, identity, emotional regulation relates to the relationship of the child with themselves. And then we have the empathy, communication skills. This relates to the child and others, because they need to learn how to be able to engage with the others in a way that is healthy. So it doesn't mean at all times you have to focus on everything. At times you just focus on what is relevant within your context, or whatever it is that you feel is an issue within your context and within your learners, as per what you see when they relate, what is the gap that you see. And that is why also it's important to know what your context is. So when you talk of the learning context, we talk of the students' family, cultures. Of course, you'll have maybe, there are schools that are integrated. There are schools that you have a mix of all kind of learners. And so you have to know their cultural context, because at times they behave the way they do because of the culture and the family that they're coming from, and maybe the experiences that they're having around their families and all that. Then you also look at your institutional context. How able is your institution to support a certain strategy that you want to incorporate in your classroom? We have, like, for example, if I can use the private schools and public schools. So you look at them, and resource-wise, you'll find that maybe public schools have less resources than private schools. So you need to look at, within my context, what is it that I have that I can use to help my learners, or even using what you have locally available, okay? And I'm glad that, and that's why I said some of these things you already do, because we have the CBC curriculum, and it emphasizes on teachers using resources that are within, locally available around their context. So look at what is you are able to do, what you are able to get, and what you can't. You can maybe just prioritize what is within your control. Or even in institutions, you can even look at how do I maybe bring my administrators on board, because you've understood that this is something crucial. How I maybe organize my classroom will affect how my learners respond, or how they because you're told, I don't remember the name of this author, but there's one author who said, before I can teach a learner English language, now this was a teacher of English, before I can teach them, for them to understand, then I have to start by taking care of their emotional being. So this means if you have even if you're maybe a biology teacher, chemistry, I used to love chemistry, so that's why I remembered chemistry. Maybe it is religious education and all that. For your learner to understand, then you first have to appeal to whatever emotions they are going through, because you remember there are times in class you could even throw a chalk. I don't know, nowadays we use these pens, the whiteboards and all that, but during our times, teachers used to use chalks. So you would just see a chalk thrown to you or to someone, so you knew that that person is absent-minded. So it means at times it's just a normal absent-mindedness, maybe they're just tired, but at times it could be that this child is going through something. So you need to prioritize getting in touch with whatever it is this child is going through, not by asking, but by how you teach, how your classroom is arranged. What are the things, how do you engage them? Do you give them agency in your classroom and all that before they can even begin to understand what it is that you're teaching in that classroom? So now, when we talk of context, how do you get to understand the context? For example, now this is a new term. If it's a new year, probably you're meeting learners that have come into your classroom from a different class. So you don't know them much. What do you do? And even a new term, a lot might have happened. Like now we know a lot has actually happened this particular holiday. So what you need to do is do a needs analysis of your students. How do you do a needs analysis of your students? You can do it by observing them. You can do it by observing how they behave, how they relate with one another. And those are telltale signs that you can get telltale signs as to maybe there's an issue here, or this is what they like, this is how they do it. You can have exercises in your classrooms. For example, yesterday we were talking about, we were talking to teachers and we were talking about, for example, having an exercise where you ask students to have 3 wishes, like to just air 3 wishes that they have. So in those 3 wishes, it will make you know what they want to talk about, what they're comfortable talking about, probably what they went through. Probably you get to know more about them. You'll get to know what happened during the school holidays. Like one person said, if one of their wish is to, if it was possible for them, they would make sure that the people who died through the floods did not die. So that makes you like get to see this person was affected by what happened. Probably someone they knew died or something like that. Then you can also have them do imaginary, like the wishes. The issue is you can have them just imagine something. For example, when you're talking about, you want them to write about my mom or my dad. And probably one of the children doesn't have a mom or a dad. So probably you can even rephrase your question and make them talk about my ideal family, my ideal mom. You know, so now they're imagining, they're not talking about their stories and all that. So through such activities, you can be able to know where your learners are at. You can get to know more about them. Of course, you can also look at their reports and get to talk about with their maybe former teacher if it's a class that they are not new in the school, they are transitioning from one class to the other. You can talk to maybe the previous teacher, how are their learners, just get to know your learners through maybe information from someone else and all that. Then the other thing that you can also do is use art. Maybe as you open, you can have them draw, or you can have them like take pictures of whatever it is that you're going to teach, so that tell them to take maybe photos of what it is that you want to teach, and you'll get to know what their likes, what our preferences are. You don't necessarily have to tell them, go take a picture of this and that, but you can tell them, choose a photo of something you like that is related to maybe the alphabets that you want to teach. Then from that, you will get to know that this particular student is interested in this one is interested in this, and you'll get to know how to deal with your learners. And in that also, you are giving them the agency and empowering them to have the choice. And that also helps them with the critical thinking. All these things, when someone goes through trauma, they sort of feel like they can't do things. So in a way, you're empowering them, and without knowing, you're helping them heal, because you're giving them that opportunity to believe in themselves again and to have hope once again. Then when it comes to maybe things that are in your own institution, for example, we are talking about public schools. Probably you do not have a library in your school. So once you know the context of your surrounding, then who are the stakeholders around your environment that you can work with and have them, for example, provide library services? Is there a way you can appeal maybe to parents to help donate and build a library for that school? Are there people who have like moving libraries, So just being creative and thinking out of the box, but within the big picture. So you will be able to bring about services and things that can help that learner and help them grow and be better people, not only performers in your classroom, but other lessons, as well as also in life generally. And also you'll help them build positive habits as they grow. Then also look at, when you're looking at your context, look at what are the beliefs of people within the society about mental health. Of course, you're not like a mental health practitioner, but our curriculum, you will be incorporating some of these things in your curriculum, and some things are just maybe up to the extent of how do you arrange your class, what are the maybe graphics you have in your classrooms, how do you engage them, the learners. And at times, of course, you'll do it directly by maybe taking them through what is self-awareness and all that. But what is the belief of the people within the community that you live? Do they believe that mental health is important? Okay. Do the parents also believe it's important? So look at the beliefs of the people around, the community, the teachers in the classroom, the administration, and look at what is it that I can deal with, what is it that I cannot deal with, what are the things that I can do, probably sensitize my fellow teachers or even the administration for them to understand what the importance of what I'm doing to help these learners. And probably they can also adopt. You can actually invite them to peer observe you so that they can give you feedback and also get to learn whatever it is that you're doing, and then they can also apply or even give you feedback as to what they think in terms of the effectiveness of the methods that you're using. So, for example, you can also use, as you are in the classroom, it's important to consider the learner's unique needs as you're considering the context. Are their needs being met with the way you're teaching? Of course, we have learners that have, they're more graphic. Some like reading more, some like writing more. So which methods are you using? Which realia are you bringing into the classroom? Are you involving them in bringing some of those? And for example, you can even use different methods so that you can excite different, the different ways they sort of receive whatever it is that you teach. You're just repeating the same message, but you're using different methods to pass that message across. You can use presentation. You can use things like flashcards with the same kind of maybe alphabet that you're using. You can use graphic organizers. You can use real life authentic materials that you ask them to bring and all that. So insofar as context is concerned, it's very important to look at those issues so that you are able to influence the healing indirectly of your learners, who we've said, let's take every learner that comes to our classrooms, it's as if they've gone through one trauma or the other. So for today, I'm going to stop here, and in the next session, I'm going to share a case study, lesson plan. It's like a lesson plan that was done by Dr. Luis, and he is one person who deals with these issues of trauma-informed classrooms. He has written books, and he has YouTube videos together with Dr. Janine. So probably I'll share the link so that you can get more of what I'm talking about in case you want to look at this in depth. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, welcome to this series. And today, as promised I'm going to share a case study and a lesson plan on that particular case study, so that probably you can get to have a clear picture of how you can use context and the particular needs that you see in your classroom to bring about social emotional learning and awareness in your students. So this is a case that was shared, as earlier pointed, by Dr. Luis Penton. So he shared about a child who came to class. This is a newcomer who came to class. So, and as he was observing, he noted that there was maybe some lack of social awareness and communication problems in this child. So what he shared is he did integrate now the social emotional learning skills into his learning objectives. Okay, so what he did with the newcomer students, as he integrated that, he looked at the content objective. So the content objective is that this learner, the newcomer or the newcomers that are there, will be able to express themselves in a way that is sensitive either express agreement or disagreement in an socially aware manner. So the language objective of that lesson plan was use of phrases for agreement and disagreement. So if you are a teacher of English, you will understand what I mean by the language objectives. So the phrases for agreement and disagreement, and use them in a conversation. Okay? So the communication will be by respectfully agreeing or disagreeing with others as they communicate. So that was the objective. So what he did in the warm-up activity of that particular lesson, the warm-up activity, what he did was ask, how do you feel when you give your opinion and someone says no? That's what he asked the students. How do you feel when you give your opinion and someone says no? And of course the students would answer in the different ways that they would. Even if you are an adult and you ask yourself, when someone says no just like that, how do you feel? Of course no one likes to be told no. So that is what he asked, and then he grouped them into pairs. Okay? And in the pairs, he told them to, once they think about it, they pair and share. So here they were told to generate phrases for agreement and disagreement. You see, in the warm-up activity, they were asked a question of how they would feel. And then in the think, pair and share, they were told, now generate phrases of agreement and disagreement. Then they all listed the phrases that they had discussed in the pair work. Okay? And then they were asked as a class to list which ones are respectful and which ones are not respectful. Okay? Which ones can you say that here I agreed or disagreed in a respectful manner, and which ones are in a disrespectful manner? Okay? So one example was, instead of saying no, you can say I have a different opinion. Okay? So that one does not now sound too sharp when you're talking to someone. Okay? Then at this point, as a teacher, what he did is he introduced a book that they could read about manners. And I'm looking at, probably if you're in an integrated school, you could introduce a book on akhlaq or a storybook that shows how people are supposed to behave. Then you tell your learners to discuss. Then if it's a school that is not integrated, you can also think of, I believe there are so many stories that have morals around them, so you can introduce that and get the learners to relate with that content even more as they practice their speaking and reading skills. Okay? Then he also gave them sentence starters after that, and he said, for example, in respectful agreement, some sentence starters would be, one example is, that's a good point because, so that is an agreement phrase that is respectful. So you give a learner a sentence starter and you tell them, finish this sentence, complete this sentence. That's a good point because, then they say what it is they want to say. Okay. Then a respectful disagreement example, something like, I don't see it that way because, you see, it's not just a sharp no. And then after that, what he did in terms of evaluation, as they finished, there's something he used, and I'm sure as teachers you are aware of, something that he said, use of exit tickets. So in the exit ticket, what he said is respectful agreement and disagreement could help them strengthen their bonds in class. So what he did is he told them share which phrases they plan to use and avoid in future as an exit ticket. So which phrases from what they've learned they are planning to share in future. And in assessing also, what apart from the exit ticket, there is also what you can use as peer evaluation. For example, you can use the method of 2 stars and a wish. Okay, so 2 stars will be two good things you've seen maybe in your peer, and a wish is what you wish maybe they could change in how they communicate. Okay, so this is a lesson plan that example that shows you how you can incorporate. We are not saying you change the curriculum, but we are saying there are things you can notice in your learner. As we were talking about context, you can notice that there is this gap, and in this case we are talking about a gap in self-awareness, others' awareness, and also communication. Okay, and we were able to go through that in terms of how do you start, what are your objectives. Of course, what are the objectives of the lesson, the content objective and the language objective, if it's an English language classroom, the different activities, and eventually until the end, and how you assess. And over time, if you keep doing that, you realize that there's something that these learners are picking, apart from even the collaboration that they go through when they're discussing and pairing and all that. So I hope this has brought home a bit more what it is that what it means to incorporate some of these things in your classroom, apart from also maybe other intentional things that you do, like having session on self-awareness, how to make decisions, self-regulation, and even how you organize your classroom, how you make your classrooms predictable so that you help them with their routine and all that. So up to here, I will end the session here today. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome once again, and this is our final segment in relation to the series on teachers as stakeholders in behavior change. And today I'm going to talk about teacher self-care. So probably I should have started with teacher self-care, because if you're not well, you cannot help someone else be well. But what we know is that as you deal with your learners, and apart from the work that you're doing and the assignments that you have to mark and all that, and the headaches you go home with, dealing with learners who have gone through trauma can also have their own weight on you as a person. So teacher self-care is very important, because every other day you see, and you're dealing with the learners' self-regulation issues, awareness issues, the lapses and all that. So it's very important for you to be aware that then you need to also take care of yourself, because otherwise you're going to get burnt out. And also, once you're burnt out, it's also very hard for you to deliver or even to be good to that child who needs your support. So it starts with you as the teacher. And you can also do that by emotional regulation and self-awareness as a teacher. And in emotional regulation, for you as a teacher and awareness, it's very important to be able to name your emotions. what is it that you feel about dealing with learners who have their own issues, or what is it that you've gone through the day, through the term, that is making you feel a certain way. So for you to understand and be able to deal with it, you have to be able to understand what is this feeling that you're feeling that makes you either feel you're not okay or you're happy. So the first step is to name that particular emotion. Once you name it, then you can be able to know, is this a desirable emotion or it's not, okay? Then if it's not a desirable emotion, you can learn to regulate it, okay? You can regulate that particular emotion, and you can also be able to do that probably by, once you're able to name it and understand it, you can, at that particular instance, you can even take deep breaths, the deep breath whereby you hold and you breathe out, you like ground yourself, so that, because you know very well when, for example, you are angry and you are in class or even dealing with other people, you can easily say things that you regret later. So, and the only way to regulate that emotion is by you understanding it and naming it and acknowledging it is there. Then if it's a desirable emotion, that you can like capitalize on it and look at what are the things that made me feel this way, in a way that I feel I'm happy, I'm okay with this kind of emotion. Then you can repeat those things that make you feel good, in a good mood and all that. Then apart from that, there is also the things that you do, understanding, like when you talk about your self-care wheel, it has so many things, like apart from your emotions, there is also things that may be affecting you in terms of your own physical health. It could be your maybe family, it could be things to do with even your academic, your own professional development and all that. So how do you identify gaps within your own self-care wheel and look at what are the goals you need to set to achieve goals, or to minimize the gap between the ideal thing you want insofar as, for example, professional development is concerned and where you are. Maybe most of the times teachers talk of there is no time. What are the things you can delegate in your classroom? What are who are the people, some people that you can delegate to, so that you're able to maybe do other things? Which modes of study are there available for you as a teacher for your professional development and all that? So look at that and be intentional in whatever it is that you're doing to bridge the gap between the ideal issues within your self-care wheel and whatever it is that you want to achieve, and what you can achieve as per what is within your control. Then the other thing, as we've seen, when it comes to the social emotional component of your learners and the trauma sensitive issues, there are things we've seen that you might want to introduce in your classroom that maybe require the management approval. They require the management to understand what it's all about, and also look at this, look at it in this way. Your class is just a part of the school, and once your learners get out of there, they mingle with the other learners. So it would be better if you also bring your other colleagues on board by maybe cascading your knowledge with them and helping them see the importance of your way of doing things in a way that acknowledges the learners as people who have gone through one trauma or the other. Then again, look at the issues of what is it that you can do within your community. As we had said when we talked about the context, who are the people who can come in and help you maybe support your learners in a way that does not stress you so much about particular needs that you're not able to meet. There are many organizations, there are parents who you can involve and all that. And always, as you do all these things, remember to always picture what is within your control and what is not within your control. And as I've said, and even if you look back into this series, you'll realize that most of the things I've talked about probably are things that you've been doing as a teacher, as an educator. But what I'm asking is, let's be intentional in taking care of our learners' social emotional component, and also being trauma sensitive in how we teach, because that's the only way we can be able to help in curbing behavior issues, truancy in school. Not the only way, but it's a good way to curb or even to support and look back and later look at your learners as they thrive in their lives, and not only in the classroom, but also in their lives outside the classroom. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.